Two people get the same piece of news. The trip is canceled. The first person is crushed. Ruined weekend, wasted plans, a small disaster. The second person hears the exact same words and feels a quiet relief. They were exhausted. Now they get their weekend back. Same news, same 5 words, two completely opposite experiences. So where did the good and the bad actually come from? Because it clearly wasn't in the news itself. The news was neutral. It just sat there. The feeling was added afterward by the person from the inside. The Stoics noticed this 2,000 years ago, and it became one of the most liberating ideas they ever taught. Epictetus said it in a single sentence that could rearrange your whole life. It's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things, not the event, your verdict on the event. This is the unbothered Stoic. One ancient idea made usable every week. Today, the Stoic idea that nothing is good or bad until you decide it is, and how that one gap between what happens and the story you tell about it hands you back your peace. Now, I know the objection already because I had it too. Some things are just bad. Losing someone, getting sick, real pain. And the Stoics are not asking you to pretend those don't hurt. Stay with me because the idea is more precise and more useful than just think positive. Here's what they actually meant. Almost nothing arrives with a fixed label of good or bad already attached. The event happens, then so fast you don't even notice, your mind slaps a story on it. This is a catastrophe. This ruins everything. This means I'm a failure. And then you react not to the event, but to the story. You suffer the story. Here's the core idea I want you to carry out of this video. Between what happens and how you feel, there is a step. And that step is yours. Most people live as if events reach in and directly control their emotions, like a hand flipping a switch. Event, feeling, no gap. The Stoics found the gap. In that gap sits your interpretation, the meaning you assign. And that meaning is the one thing no person and no circumstance can take from you. You are, whether you've ever realized it or not, the author of what things mean to you. If that just cracked something open for you, hit like. It genuinely helps this idea reach someone who's currently being crushed by a story they don't know they're allowed to rewrite. Then let's make it practical, because this is a skill, and skills only change your life if you actually run them. 3 exercises, all Stoic, all usable today. The first is naming the event without the verdict. When something upsets you, separate the 2 layers out loud. Say what literally happened. Stripped of all judgment, not my boss humiliated me, but my boss said these words in front of these people. Not everything is falling apart, but this one plan changed. Epictetus trained his students to describe events in bare, factual language because he knew the drama lives in the adjectives, not the facts. Strip the adjectives and half the suffering falls off with them. The second exercise is asking who else the meaning could be. Take the thing bothering you and ask, could a wise, calm person look at this exact situation and see it completely differently? Almost always, yes. The rejection that feels like proof you're not good enough could be redirection towards something better. The criticism that stings could be information you needed. You're not lying to yourself. You're just remembering that your first interpretation is not the only one available, and it is almost never the most useful one. The third exercise is the pause before the label. This is the hardest and the most powerful. When something happens, try to catch the half second before your mind assigns a meaning. Notice the raw event, naked, before the story lands on it. Marcus wrote to himself, "Take away your opinion, and there is taken away the complaint. Take away the complaint, and the hurt is gone." He's pointing at that exact moment before the opinion attaches, when the event is still just an event. The more you can rest in that moment, the freer you become, because that's the place where you get to choose the meaning instead of inheriting it. Now, let me be honest with you, because this idea has a dangerous edge. This is not about denying reality or forcing a fake smile. If you tell yourself a burned hand feels wonderful, you're not a Stoic, you're delusional. The Stoics didn't relabel pain as pleasure. They removed the extra suffering, the layer of story we pile on top of the actual event. The trip being canceled is neutral. This always happens to me, and my life as a joke is the story. And the story is where the real pain multiplies. You're not editing reality, you're deleting the exaggeration. And this takes practice, because your labels feel like facts. When you're inside a judgment, it doesn't feel like an interpretation. It feels like the simple truth. The whole discipline is learning to see the label as a label, so you can hold it up and ask, is this one serving me, or can I choose a truer one? Here's the promise the Stoics kept finding. The person who controls the meaning controls the experience. Circumstances will keep coming. Some will be genuinely hard, But the person who has learned to catch the gap between event and story is almost impossible to devastate, because you can no longer be trapped by an outside event alone. The world can hand you the news. You still hold the pen that decides what it means. Epictetus, a former slave who had every reason to see life as unfair, put the whole thing into one calm instruction. Men are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them. When we are hindered or disturbed, let us never blame others but ourselves, that is, our own judgments. Never blame the event. Look at the judgment. That's where you actually live, and that's the one room no one can enter without your permission. So the next time life hands you 5 words that feel like a catastrophe, remember the gap. Name the bare event. Then ask what it could mean, and choose on purpose the meaning that lets you keep your peace and keep moving. I really want to hear this one. And I read the comments. What's a story you told yourself about a hard event that, looking back, simply wasn't true? Share it below. It might be exactly the reframe someone else needs today. The next video turns to something you feel every single day without noticing, wanting, the endless itch for more. The Stoics found the cure for it, and it's the opposite of what the whole modern world will tell you. Subscribe and stay. We're building this calm, one idea at a time.